Hello and welcome in to the draft recap brought to you by the Fantasy Bums. I'm Shanholtz, and alongside me we have Nick, Lucas, and a special guest. Tyler couldn't be here tonight, so we have Gavin, our college football expert. Gavin, how are you tonight, buddy?
Oh, I'm feeling great. It's a great day. It's like Christmas in April. I love the draft, and they don't call me cultural expert for no reason. I'm looking at my big board here. I'm feeling good. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, sounds good. So we are currently watching the draft right now. So it is Thursday with the time we are recording this. We are currently at pick 28. So the first 27 have been picked, and we're going to go through and kind of give you our takes on each of the picks. Some of them, as you can tell, like tackles and stuff, aren't going to be that big of a, we don't need that big of a summary on them, but we're going to at least give you, more of the skill players that you're going to draft for your dynasty leagues or redrafts. So I'll start with the 101. The Carolina Panthers select Bryce Young out of Alabama. Not much to say here. This is going in. People thought at the beginning it was Stroud. I've even seen Richardson and Levis sneak into that first and a couple things.
Wow.
But towards the end of the draft, we knew pretty much that it was going to be Bryce Young. So this impacts my sleeper, Terrace Marshall Jr. So like I was saying during that episode, if you want to check that out, that's on our YouTube page. The young buck behind the center is going to want to talk to the young buck out wide. So Terrace Marshall, Bryce Young, my picks coming together. We've had a few of my picks look good. So, Adam Thielen and DJ Chark are obviously going to be better than what already. The running game, Miles Sanders, that's iffy. We don't know how that's going to work out. Bryce Young can run out of the pocket, so we could see a few zone reads, like option reads and stuff. But I think Miles Sanders isn't going to move on my charts as far as this pick goes.
The good thing with Miles Sanders is he's played the past 2.5 years with a very mobile quarterback. So he's been relevant those past couple of years with Jalen Hurts in the pocket and everything like that. So taking touchdowns and rushing yards away. So I don't see any really any big step backs. Obviously, the rushing will take away from my sleeper, Miles Sanders. But what are you going to do? The 102, the Texans took C.J. Stroud. And from Ohio State, this was I feel like a lot of people were up in the air about who was going to go at the second pick, especially after that test came out. And he scored at the, 18%, 16%?
Yeah, and there was the guy who ran the test said like there was issues with it, so it might not have been like 100% accurate. But
if C.J. Stroud, if he pans out to be one of the best quarterbacks in this draft, that test should just be lit on fire and never used again. I mean, you can't use that as a metric anymore if somebody who scored one of the lowest scores ever turns out to be one of the best one of the best quarterbacks in this draft. I like this spot for CJ. He's a good pocket passer. He'll excel with a good running game in Dameon Pierce. He's got great receivers, Mechie and Nico Collins, correct?
Right. Yeah, they got Mechie and Nico Collins at the moment.
Woods. They have Robert Woods
and Robert
Woods.
Right. Yeah. And I forgot the second. So the offense is looking better now for the Texans. Anybody else got any opinions on that one? I know Lucas is strongly against it.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be very good. The new test that they are using has been a test that they've used in baseball for years, and they just started using in the NFL 3 or 4 years ago. And it's been proven that QBs that test high on it, it is possible that they end up not being good, but more than likely they do end up being good. But there's yet to be a quarterback that's scored low on it and has been good in the NFL. So I don't really know how he's going to play out.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard with like tests, especially for quarterbacks, because obviously you want a smart quarterback. Then you look at, for example, the guy that just signed today, Lamar. His testing when he was a rookie or prospect, terrible. He did not test out very well. But 2 years later, he ends up winning the MVP. So it's not like an end-all be-all thing. It's definitely concerning for Stroud, but I mean, you do get the most accurate quarterback in the class, in my opinion. He's got the best arm. It just depends, like, where else can he go with it? And he also had a really easy system. I mean, look at the wide receivers he had around him the last 3 years he was there. I mean, he had Njigba. He had projected top 5 pick next year, Marvin Harrison, Chris Olave. He's had Garrett Wilson, So it's kind of like we'll see with Stroud. I don't think there's any debate whether or not he was the number 2 quarterback or not, but Houston, they need a quarterback. So it doesn't really mean much else to them at this point. They needed a guy. Davis Mills sucks. With all due respect, the guy's garbage. So you got to do something there.
Third pick, they traded up and they ended up going with Will Anderson, which he's a monster. If it wasn't for the fact that the first and second pick needed a QB so bad, he's by far probably would have been the number 1 overall pick. The only thing for fantasy relevancy is just the Texans defense is just not very good. So I don't know if him even being an X factor player can turn that around for them, but I think that they have a bright future on defense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, all things considered, he had a down year in 2022, 2023. But, I mean, 2021, he was prime Lawrence Taylor out there in college. I mean, he was an unstoppable force. I have some opinions about Will Anderson. It's kind of a hot take. I think Tyree Wilson might be the better player right now, which, again, he goes later in the draft. We'll talk about him later. But, I mean, he's a good player. Houston gets aggressive. I like it. You got to be aggressive to win games in the NFL, and that's what they did. They got D'Amico Ryans. He's going to coach up Will Anderson. So, from an outside of a fantasy perspective, I think Houston got 10 times better than they were yesterday, without a doubt. 12th overall, they wouldn't have gotten a guy as good as Will Anderson. So, it works out.
So,
it works out for them.
With that being said, I was kind of surprised that they traded up because with drafting CJ Stroud, I figured they'd want to try to keep a relationship and have a good rapport with the wide receiver room, and then end up taking Jackson Smith and Jigba relatively early in that 12th spot, which is what I've seen some mock drafts do when they take CJ Stroud the 2nd overall. But obviously, Will Anderson, a great pickup. What did they have to give up for that trade?
A first and second this year, and then a first and third next year, and then they got the 3rd and a 4th round this year.
Yeah, you said
which
earlier.
I think I love that trade. Yeah, I think the Texans are absolutely winning this first round today.
Sure. I mean, you have to. Whenever you're that bad for that long and you have that many picks, it'd be very disappointing for them to not win that. And you were saying earlier that they still have after today's trade, they only have
They'll
one
still have a
first round
first next year. Yep.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so it's not like they lost their first round next year either, which is huge for them.
Yeah, no, they got Cleveland's next year, I think, still. So
okay.
Yeah, it was definitely a dispensable asset. Like Lucas said, the defense isn't that great on Houston, but just D'Amico Ryan came in. I think he's starting to build a little bit of a more winning attitude there, especially going big, trading up to the 3rd overall.
Mm-hmm.
So not more of a fantasy, more of just an NFL take. The Houston Texans are looking a lot better than they were at the beginning of the offseason. So they might be a team that sneaky wins 6-7 games, maybe even more than that if they go on a run. So be something to look out for.
Oh, 100%.
And their division's not too tough either.
Yeah.
No, it is not. Definitely the weakest in the AFC.
I mean, you have the Jags.
That could sneak some wins.
Yeah, you have the Jags that are I would imagine they're the betting favorite right now. But outside of that, 2nd place or that wild card spot could be anybody's right now.
104. Anthony Richardson. I love it. I'm a big fan of Anthony Richardson. I've always been a fan of him. You can ask Lucas. I was talking about that Dunham's months ago, back in January. I was like, man, this guy.
Shout out Dunham's, baby.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Pretty good.
Shout out the best sporting good area in the Queen City. But I mean, Richardson, he's a freak, man. You're going to want him in your dynasty leagues. You're going to want him in any fantasy league, really. If a keeper league, obviously. He's not a year 1 starter, probably, in my opinion. I don't think he's ready for year 1.
Do you think they're starting Ellinger over him this year?
Minshew. I think they're starting
Minshew.
Yeah,
that's right. I forgot they had Minshew.
I think Minshew's the guy for at least 6 games even. I just don't think –
you could probably see Richardson taking over halfway through the year maybe.
Yeah, it could be something like Lamar Jackson did years ago with Deshaun Watson, like kind of step up halfway through the year and just win some games. But I don't know. Richardson, he played in a very easy system in Florida, not a pro offense. He struggled with accuracy at times.
Yeah.
But
that's what concerned me a lot with him was just being inaccurate as a passer.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But the traits athletically, he's the sky's the limit for the guy. I think.
My thing with Richardson is obviously he is an athletic phenomenon, but after the first 3 games this past year, he sucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's he definitely had the Heisman hype those first 3 games, but after that he did not have it at all. and it was definitely an accuracy issue and somewhat of a decision-making issue. But, I mean, if he sits behind Minshew, I like Minshew. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he can help
he
him.
is. He is.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing too. I mean, Indianapolis, they hired Shane Steichen, the Eagles' offense coordinator, the same guy who's credited for developing Jalen Hurts, who came into the league with a lot of issues himself as a mobile pocket passer, or not a mobile pocket passer, but kind of like a dual threat quarterback. Richardson, he's only 20 years old. He literally was a redshirt sophomore this year. He was
That's insane.
That's what I'm saying. So, I mean, Steichen, you're going to have your hands full with him, but at the same time, I think it's a good thing. And the Colts kind of go either way. They don't draft the tall, white pocket passer quarterback that everyone thought they would. Yeah. They kind of go out of the limb there, and that's good. That's what you got to do sometimes. You got to change sometimes to move forward. So, but yeah, huge day
away from the Andrew Luck.
Yeah. You're living off the grave of Andrew Luck.
Before we move away from this pick, I do want to say Tyler is a huge Colts fan, and he couldn't be happier. And he was super excited with this pick. He said he's looking up Anthony Richardson jerseys as they picked them. As they announced the pick, he was typing in Anthony Richardson Colts jerseys.
Attaboy. So nice.
He's super excited for that pick, too.
So moving on to the 5th pick, this is starting to look like a Legion of Boom light series out here for the Seahawks, and I'm here for it. You know, I grew up on the Legion of Boom. All of us grew up on the Legion of Boom. Such a fun defense to watch, and just adding another corner to that secondary along with Tariq Woolen from last year is starting to, get some flashes of that. They knocked it out of the park last year with their draft, so whatever they're looking at scout-wise is working. So this pick is, I like it. I'm not over the moon about it, but I'm not hating at the same time. I think it's a rather safe pick for them.
Yeah, and they stole the Broncos' entire draft this year, so win-win for them. Like Shanold said, this is basically just beefing up their defense even more. You should have 2 elite cornerbacks on the edge. Going to be hard to pass. And I mean, they missed Jamal Adams the entire year, wasn't it? Was it not week 1 he got hurt last year against the Broncos? I think it was.
Yeah,
it was relative
first half of early first half of the season.
So they missed him a lot. I mean, they've got some dogs on the line too. So,
and he led Did he lead college in INTs, Gavin or Lucas? You guys are the college.
I don't know, but I do know that one of the big things about him coming out of college and like why a lot of CBs don't succeed is because they aren't physical and they aren't scrappy. They have like all of the speed and everything you need to play corner, the route jumping, but they don't have the physical and the scrappiness to play corner. And Devin Witherspoon loves to be scrappy.
Awesome.
Yeah, so as far as fantasy goes for this defensive pick, I could see this pushing Seattle top 10 because they were, I think they were 12-13 last year, so that's only 3 spots out. And if you get the INT leader in college, drafted 5th, there's some big expectations for that. So you can definitely see some picks coming that way. So picks equal points in fantasy football. So I definitely can see them bumping their way up into the top 10. So if you're looking for a defense, Seattle could be a very good option for you later on down in the later rounds of your draft for sure.
We're going to move on to the 106 where Paris Johnson Jr., offensive tackle at Ohio State, was drafted. This is good for the Cardinals. Maybe not their best move. I feel like they could have done a little better in the draft, although they do need line help, and this will help whatever high school quarterback they throw out there week 1, not named Kyler Murray. And
Colt
this will obviously Colt McCoy for his age 55 year, right? And this will definitely benefit James Conner and whatever other backs they have back there. Obviously, offensive line helps with any running back, but anybody else got anything to add about him?
No, I think.
Just
he's a good
pretty safe pick overall. Yeah, that's just more of a
not a flashy pick.
Line.
Yeah,
not a flashy top 10 pick, but it's a needed piece for that offense.
But it's good if you're interested in the likes of Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, if he's still there, Rondale Moore. They kind of made it clear. And who's our tight end? Oh, they drafted Trey McBride
Zach
last
Ertz,
year.
and they have Trey McBride. But I don't know. We don't know about Zach Ertz's return when he'll be back.
I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, this is good for you folks who are interested in just anyone on that offense because this gives Kyler Murray a big piece of protection.
Moving into the 107, the Raiders selected Tyree Wilson. This pick, I've seen a lot of comparisons for Tyree Wilson, comparing him to Nick Bosa.
Yep.
He's all right around that size. But I did also see a report that kind of scared me with the fact that the Big 12 does not produce good defensive linemen. I think in the past 20 years they've produced one top 15 pick at defensive line, and he was a bust. So that kind of scares you because you get players from certain schools like Iowa's always got the tight ends, Big Ten's always got the offensive line,
Yeah.
and once you get to that like where certain positions aren't produced very well in that conference, like the Big 12 is not very good at producing defensive linemen, that kind of scares you to draft one. And we're seeing it with Joey Porter too. The Penn State Nittany Lions have never produced a first-round CB, and teams have kind of shied away from him in the first round. So you kind of see that scouts lean towards that stuff. So that's the only thing that scares me really with him.
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough. Sometimes you want to say, hey, don't scout the helmet, scout the player. For Tyree Wilson, like I said earlier, I think he might end up being a better player than Will Anderson. But that's just the way I look at the way he plays and stuff. He's a monster. He's going with Max Crosby too. That's a two-headed monster.
I love that. I love that he's not
Yeah.
across Max Crosby. And then
If it was
an older Chandler Jones.
Yeah. I mean, the corpse at that point, Chandler Jones, which, yikes.
I mean, he's got
fantastic
great people
mentor.
to learn from. Yeah,
that year with Chandler Jones is going to help him so much. I like the pick for the Raiders.
Yeah, there's a lot of concern about Tyree Wilson too, his medicals, and he had some injury history, but he stays. He's a good player. He should go where he does go, and I think he's going to make a big impact on the Raiders from a defense perspective and a fantasy perspective too. So I like it a lot.
Yeah.
Bijan Robinson going 8 to the Falcons. He's a top 3 player in the class. He is.
Agreed.
He's a talent. He's one of the best running back prospects I've seen since Adrian Peterson, Todd Gurley. I always see people are saying he's Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey went 10th overall back in 2017. Mm-hmm. He's a good player now, but at the time everyone was kind of lower on him. But Bijan is a stud. He's going to play slot wide receiver for you. He's going to run the ball. He's going to block for your quarterback, whoever it's going to be. It's probably Desmond Ridder, which another conversation for another day. Yeah. But no, I think Bijan, from a fantasy perspective, he's going to be a first-round pick this year in fantasy probably. He's got to be, in my opinion. He's going to go for at least $1,500 per push yards. So
when I was looking at potential landing spots for Bijan, not that I have any shares of Bijan in my dynasty leagues, I saw the 8, 9, and 10 with the Eagles or with the Falcons, Eagles, and Bears to be one of the prime landing spots for him for immediate help or for immediate roster help, and he fell in there. You're happy with any of those teams? Obviously, you would prefer the Eagles or the Bears, considering the offenses and everything like that. But he should be, and Lucas is going to disagree with me here, but he should be the bell cow there with the Falcons. And I'll segue that right into Lucas so he can talk about the boy behind him.
I'm gonna throw my piece out with the Atlanta Falcons right now.
Speak your truth, Lucas.
Bijan is a top 3 player in the class, but Atlanta, what are you doing when you draft a running back in the late rounds? He rushes for 1,100 yards for you this year, and then you go out and waste another top pick when you're a team that needs so much on a running back, when you already have a proven running back that can rush for 1,100 yards off of like a 40% snap share, and you're paying him dirt.
All right, I mean, are we surprised the same team 2 years ago took Kyle Pitts 4th overall with 38-year-old Matt Ryan at quarterback? And then they took Drake London last year with who was on the board at that time quarterback-wise? Was it
no idea. I don't remember last year's draft.
I'm drawing a big blank right now. But again, Drake London last year, he wasn't a bad player. Neither Kyle Pitts. I just think they're ignoring the most valuable position in football. They do it year in, year out. And there's a reason why.
It just doesn't make sense. Bijan is a great player, and he's going to be a monster in Atlanta, but it just doesn't make sense to me to use the number 8 overall pick on a running back when you have a proven running back who you drafted in the later rounds, and you're probably paying less than $1 million a year.
Oh, yeah.
So
it's definitely
the thing that the Falcons are kind of reminding me of is they're drafting the actual NFL draft, how you would draft a dynasty rookie draft. They're just taking the best talent available at the time, right? They're not really focusing on positional needs. I mean, they saw Bijan at the 8 and we're like, all right, Looks like
Arthur
it's him.
Smith's a fantasy guru.
Yeah, bro. You know he's got the 101 in his dynasty leagues.
Oh, easy.
So that's why he's
25, 30 carries a game.
oh my god, it's gonna be insane. He's gonna have
Now-
1,500 all purpose, 10 plus touchdowns, and he's gonna be RB 12.
This is all going to come together really well in a year from now when we're doing the same podcast again for 2024 draft, and they're sitting here. They're not taking Caleb Williams. They're not going to take Drake May. They're probably going to take Quinn Ewers at like 12th overall because they're mediocre again, and they take another mediocre player. But this time it's a quarterback. So we'll see.
If you play for the University of Georgia and you're on the defensive side of the ball, start looking for houses in Philadelphia because that's all we draft. Jalen Carter. And the fact that we moved up one spot to get him, I hate. We gave up basically a fourth just to move up one spot. I know Chicago was probably thinking about it, but I mean, even if they got him, I would have much rather taken a linebacker here personally because our linebacker core is dead. We have 4 or 5 good defensive linemen on that front line. We could definitely have spent – I would have liked Van Ness here, honestly, in my opinion, but – I mean, I guess they get paid to do this instead of me, so I'll let them figure it out. But I like Jalen Carter. Don't get me wrong. He's a stud. He's a goon. I definitely like him. But, I mean, I think we could have splurged more on a linebacker, because we have that luxury. We're a great team with 2 first-round picks. We have the luxury to get a player that we can, take a risk on to see if he's good. And our linebacker core is always, like, the worst part of our defense. Yeah. We never have an absolute stud at linebacker. We have Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham on the line. We have Darius Slay. Did we just get rid of Bradbury or Gardner Johnson? Yeah, we just got rid of Gardner Johnson. Yeah. So we have studs in the secondary. Our linebacker core is what always needs work, and we always neglect it. I don't know why. Maybe that's just not how the defense is played in Philadelphia. I'm not an X's and O's guy. I'm more of just a dumb fan on the couch. But, I mean, I like Jalen Carter, but I wish we would have got a linebacker here because there's multiple edge rushers that are really good here. I don't know your guys' opinion, but
so the only thing I will say is the Eagles struggled heavily against the run last year, and it was very evident in that week 9 loss, week 8 loss to the Commanders, the first loss of the year, when Ron Rivera said, "Oh, there's Brian Robinson in the backfield. Let me just give him the ball 50 times and see what happens." Well, he averaged like 3-4 yards a carry that game, and they did nothing but run the ball, and they had the ball for 45 of the 60 minutes. So I don't mind this pick. I mean, obviously, I love to reunite one of the better defenses in recent college history with the 2 defensive tackles and then Nakobe Dean back there. Hopefully, should step up this year in place of the missing linebackers. I think this it helps with the total defense. And again, I agree with Shanholtz with the linebackers and all that stuff. But I think this is going to help with the run. And if we can stop the run inside, then that leaves Hassan Reddick and Brandon Graham and all those guys to run free on the edge. So,
oh yeah, and that's the thing too. I mean, not to be a man while they're down. I mean, this is still probably a sore subject, but Super Bowl. I mean, Isaiah Pacheco, you couldn't stop him.
Every single week, we just get raw dogged from the running game. Like week 1, DeAndre Swift had $150 and 2 tutties or whatever it was. It's just every week.
And so now when you add,
hopefully this helps.
Right. Oh, it should. When you add a guy like Nolan Smith. Spoilers. It's fine.
It's all
cool.
good.
It's cool.
Whatever.
I was reading the comments here. It's cool.
We'll cut that out.
Go Birds, another Georgia player. Go Birds.
We'll get into that at a later date, but they did just take Nolan Smith. That's fine. But when you add Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis a year ago, you have Josh Sweat, you have Fletcher Cox back on a 1-year deal, you have what's that guy's name? Milton Williams. I mean, it's going to be Hassan Reddick. How can I forget Hassan Reddick? One of the best passers in the NFL. Obviously, Gannon's gone. It's probably good. It's probably
Gannon
good
couldn't stop the run anyway, so have fun, Arizona.
We just need to play Pee-wee football, 6 on the line, 2 linebackers.
Yeah, we're about
3
to have
safeties,
6 on the line.
and just blitz. Yes, because all we do is get defensive linemen. I don't understand.
Listen,
honestly,
what are
we doing? You guys are about to run a 4-4 or something.
Honestly, Jalen Carter
running a 5-2.
If we put Jalen Carter
linemen at linebacker is what we're going to do.
If we put Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis up the middle, that's going to account for like 4 gaps. They're just massive human beings. Massive.
It might be a slow defensive front, but if teams run the ball.
That's what you got Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat and those guys for. So
That's true.
At the 110, the Bears selected Darnell Wright. offensive tackle from Tennessee. Again, same as I somehow keep getting stuck with the offensive tackles. Not a big deal, but um, it's obviously going to boost the run game. It's going to help Justin Fields. It's going to help anything that helps the quarterback is going to benefit the rest of the offense. So I believe that this is another showing of the Bears front office to re-establish Justin Fields and show the confidence in him to, hey, this is your year. Let's step up and we'll do it together. So I'm fine with this pick again. It's another safe pick, I think. I don't really know too much about him as a player, but I mean, if you're going 10th overall in the NFL draft, you must be doing something right. So
with the 111, I also have a tackle here. The Titans selected Peter Skoronski. Tyler was on the draft with me when that happened. I was very pissed off. That's why I wanted the Jets to draft. He's a great offensive tackle. In my opinion, I think he's going to end up being the best tackle in the class. And it's just somebody to block for Derrick Henry when he rushes 50 times a game this year because Malik Willis can't throw the ball. So I think it's a great pick for them. There's not much to say about it other than he's going to be there. I think he's going to play guard mainly this year, but it's really going to help with Derrick Henry having to run the ball so much.
Yep.
Yeah. I say, he's a good player. One of the best offensive linemen in college football the last 3 years. He's kind of been the consensus pick for Tennessee for the last 6 months, I think. Everyone loves him. He's got little arms, but that doesn't matter in the NFL, in my opinion. I don't think it matters.
He's got the T-Rex out there.
Dude, college expert. He knows the arm sizes.
He's got the wingspan of goddamn Devin Spiker out there. No offense, Devin Spiker, for watching this, but for an offensive lineman, it's a little concerning. But Mike Vrabel doesn't care. He gets his guy. The next pick. This is the first curveball of the draft, and I didn't necessarily think it was a bad pick. I just think it's a big shit. Like this, the Lions are getting weird on us here. Yeah. It's Jahmyr Gibbs from Alabama. Jahmyr Gibbs, great player. I mean,
super fast.
Right?
Super fast.
Stupid fast. Yeah. And he fits the mold of an NFL running back. DeAndre Swift obviously hasn't been healthy at all in his career with the Lions. They lose Jamal Williams, so they need someone else to kind of be an explosive playmaker for him with Jared Goff. And obviously Ben Johnson's back, the offensive coordinator. He didn't go nowhere. Amon-Ra St. Brown. They got the whole crew back. The offensive line's fine. They added a playmaker. They make a reach, but you got to reach for good players sometimes, I think. It's not a big – it's a weak position too. But
go ahead, Luke, my bad.
When I first saw this pick, I thought it was a really bad pick because they have Swift and then they brought in Montgomery for the goal line. But the more I looked at it and looked into it, this is Swift's last year of his deal.
Yep.
So he's a free agent next year.
Aaron Rodgers is out.
So I think that makes this pick a lot smarter because they have Gibbs locked in until his fifth-year option, and they don't have to pay Swift if they don't want to because he can't stay healthy. They can just let him walk, and they have a running back who's just as good, maybe even better, especially if Gibbs can stay healthy.
Yeah. So I'm going to steal a page out of Shanholtz's book. If you recall to the Sleeper episode, he likes his boys big and tall. That kind of applies to fantasy relevant running backs. There have only been a very few number of running backs that have been under 200 pounds in the past couple years to be good. And whenever I say good, you want a good RB2 and a great RB1. So I'm looking at RB2 flex range. And Jahmyr Gibbs, I'm pretty sure he weighed in at – what did he weigh in at the combine? Wasn't it like 190 something?
Yeah.
So he's close. So, again, I hate to be nitpicky. It's 1 pound. I get that. But, the numbers just go against fantasy relevant running backs whenever they're that small. Just the wear and tear of that brutal position. Don't ever become a running back unless you're really good and weigh 200 pounds. So that's my take on Gibbs. Great player. Don't know how he's going to pan out for fantasy just because of his size.
I think a great example of what he could become for that size is like a great comparison would be Tariq Cohen and what happened to him and his injuries that basically ended his career. I mean, Tariq Cohen was the number one back in Chicago a few years ago.
Yeah, he was really good. He was a dog.
And then he got hurt, and he just never played again after he got hurt because he was so small.
Okay, so I have the 13th pick. and this is who I wish the Eagles would have drafted, Luke Van Ness out of Iowa. Green Bay got 2 picks up for the Rodgers trade, and I think they really killed it with this pick. It's a great defensive pickup. As far as fantasy value, it doesn't really do much. He's going to get tackles and tackles for loss, but I'm not seeing a lot of sacks on the board for that. So tackles and tackles for loss aren't really fantasy relevant. But NFL pick, very good. Fantasy, I don't see much of an impact on the Green Bay defense. They're going to finish right about where we think they're going to finish as far as adding on this defensive player.
And it looks like the Packers are going to take the similar approach as what they did with Aaron Rodgers and just not give him weapons. So, good luck with Jordan Love.
Yeah, I like Christian Watson as a rookie, and then Romeo Dobbs. He really never played much last year, so maybe he'll. Yeah. Both of them are getting in their sophomore.
They could have taken JSN right here. Nobody would have questioned it. Nobody would have questioned that if they would have took him right there. So for the 14th overall pick, the Steelers took Broderick Jones, Georgia offensive tackle. Again, if you want to hear me talk about tackles, just go back like 5 minutes and then go back like 5 more minutes, and it's going to be the same thing. It's great for Najee, great for a second-year Kenny Pickett. Anything that boosts the quarterback is going to boost the receivers.
I think it's a good pick by the Steelers. Their offensive line.
Yeah, their offensive line. Cool. This is probably out of all all 3 of these, the offensive tackle picks that I talked about make sense because those lines were atrocious last year. This helps. This is a step in the right direction. And this kind of shows that they're committed to who they have as the skill players and the athletes and the playmakers on their team, on the offensive side at least. And Pickens, Harris, and Kenny Pickett running it all.
Yeah, I don't see much. I mean, Najee and the receivers and stuff. Pickett's going to have a couple more seconds to throw. Mm-hmm. That's about all you're going to get out of this as far as fantasy relevance.
Oh, yeah. And this was, outside of fantasy-wise, this was a Jets guy. I think that's what's been rumored for a long time. The Jets, like Broderick Jones, Steelers knew they had to jump him. It's an aggressive move by the Steelers. They only give up 4th round. Yeah.
Well, that's like 3 picks leading up to the Jets. Lucas was unhappy.
And it's weird because I kept thinking.
I'm pretty sure they traded with the Patriots too, which pisses me off.
Yeah, they got the 14th.
Knew what he was doing.
Yeah. But the Patriots had the 14th.
That leads into my pick, my Jets pick.
You got the Jets.
Which I was not happy about. We got the Will McDonald the 4th out of Iowa State, defensive lineman, or outside linebacker, sorry. That is a position of need, and that was something that I wanted us to draft, but I did not want us to draft somebody that we could have gotten the 2nd round at 15th overall, especially when we could have got somebody like the likes of Nolan Smith, or even like drafting a tight end and Dalton Kincaid, or even, getting Aaron Rodgers a 3rd receiver in Jackson Smith and Jigba. But instead, we decided that Will McDonald was the pick. I honestly don't even know if he'll be a starter on our defensive line. I don't see it affecting our fantasy defense at all. Our defense is really good already fantasy-wise. I don't really think a pick there is going to affect, especially since I really don't know if he's going to be that good.
Mm-hmm. Fair. Yeah, Will McDonald, like you said, Big 12 guys, Big 12 defenses are usually terrible every year. That's how it works. But Will McDonald, they're usually one of the teams that actually have a somewhat decent defense year in and year out. But in terms of an NFL talent, Will McDonald's really good. Jermaine Johnson last year is a steal. This is a bit of a reach. It's not necessarily a big need and not even a great pick value-wise. You could have taken Christian Gonzalez even and paired him up with Sauce Gardner, and you would have been making out like bandits. But no, Will McDonald's really good.
I did mention that as well, yeah. I thought having those 2 on an island would have been amazing. So I don't really know what Joe Douglas is doing, but maybe I should be hired.
Fair enough.
Same for Philly. I think I could do better.
I can leave my LinkedIn if they want it.
Yeah, is this both of you submitting your applications for NFL GMs?
Yeah, I think I should
at least like in the draft room. Put me in the war room. Let me get an opinion. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Emmanuel Forbes from Mississippi State to the Commanders. The Commanders will get clowned every time they make a pick, no matter who it is. They could have taken Tom Brady at this pick, and I think people would still make fun of him somehow. That's just who they are. But Forbes is really good. He's 6'1", 170. A little guy in terms of weight, but he's a ball hawk. He's a freak. He's going to get you interceptions. He's one of the best corners in the draft for a reason. He fits Ron Rivera perfectly. I think someone put it as like Josh Norman with Ron Rivera back in Carolina. So I think it's a fine pick. I liked Forbes a lot for the Ravens at 22 if he was available, but he goes 6 picks before, and as he should probably. And it's going to an already good defense. So
Yeah, this just makes the defense better.
The 17th overall pick. My personal opinion, I believe this is the steal of the first round. This is how high I am on this guy. It is Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon, a cornerback. I just think he should have went top 6, 7. I don't know why he fell so much. Getting him at 17 is just an absolute steal. This defense, like Nick said, is very fantasy relevant. They're top 5, top 7 every year. And they're just going to get more INTs. They're going to get more pressure, like man pressure. This dude's not going to let him off the line. He's a much bigger corner than most corners, which I like. I like my players to be, bigger stature. Bill Belichick and their defense, I mean, he always has them perfect, no flaws, always running the X and O's very fluently. So I just see him getting thrown right in and not like skipping a beat. Rookies might need a game or two to get in.
The 18th overall pick, the Lions took Jack Campbell out of Iowa. And I don't really follow too much college football, but I do know if you play linebacker for Iowa, you have to be good, obviously, and you're going to translate to the NFL, more than likely.
So the big thing about this pick, though, is it is a heavy reach. So there was a 99.2% chance that Jack Campbell would still be available at pick 34. And the Lions drafted him all the way at 18.
Yeah, it's tough.
He is good. I think that he's the best inside linebacker in the draft. I just think it was a big.
Oh, yeah.
The Buccaneers, they ended up selecting Kalia Cansey, D tackle out of Pitt. To be honest, I don't know a lot about him. I'm not a big Pitt guy. Got to be honest, not a big Pitt guy. So I don't know a lot about him other than I know that when the Buccaneers drafted him, they were really looking for him to be their next like Gerald McCoy 3-type technique D tackle. And I know he's really fast. He ran the fastest 40 out of all D tackles this year. And he's got the potential to have double-digit sacks. But other than that, I don't really know much about him. He's coming into a good defense, though, already. So he should help that out a good bit.
Oh, yeah. And I'll probably sound like a huge nerd here, but I was watching Jordan Addison, like his like game tape and stuff from when he was at Pittsburgh just to see, because I was really big on the wide receivers. I'm a Raiders fan. I got to watch. I got to see what I'm looking at here. And, obviously you get flip to the other side of the field. There's Kalijah Cansey. Guy's a freak. He's a pass rushing interior guy. Him next to Vita Vea is not fair. It's really not. The Buccaneers will probably suck on the offense side of the ball, but defensively, they're going to be fun to watch. They're not going to give up many points, I can imagine. Secondary is still pretty bad. Pick 20 in the first round. Again, Geno Smith's great. He had a great season last year, but you got to look ahead a little bit. Geno's 31 now. Mm-hmm. There's no guarantee he's going to continue to play at a high level, but they do get the best wide receiver in the class, bar none, and Jackson Smith and Jigba at 20. I don't think they expected it. I don't think anyone expected it. No. But you get the best slot receiver. He's a slot guy. I hate to say it. Slot receivers don't get as much love in the NFL either, so that's probably a good reason why I dropped.
In fantasy, that's starting to switch, though.
I love slots.
Yeah,
he's going to get lots of targets.
Cooper Kupp was a slot receiver whenever he won the Triple Crown. Justin Jefferson plays in the slot sometimes.
The big thing with this pick, though, is he's coming into an offense where he's the wide receiver 3 starting out.
Right.
Yeah,
fantasy value is not. I would say year one fantasy value is not as high as you thought it was going to be before the draft for him.
Yeah.
Oh, not a chance.
I think after year one, though, I think it might be Lockett will be 31 by then. Obviously, they're not going to get rid of DK, but they might even look to move Lockett just to get him more catches.
Right.
Would you guys still take? So, in the majority of rookie drafts, mock drafts, Jackson Smith and Jigba in a 1-quarterback league was the 1 and 2. Are you guys still taking him here?
I think that the best answer would be for the guy who has the 102 in our dynasty league, Tyler.
Oh, Tyler! I didn't know who had the 102.
I have the 1 too. And after tonight, I'm probably. I hate to say it because the people who are in our league are watching, but I'm not probably taking JSN too. I'm not. I can't take him over. I'll talk about him later, but I just can't take him over this other guy. I like his spot way more than a wide receiver 3 in Seattle.
And then
so that brings me to the 21.
Yep.
Yep.
Quentin Johnston out of TCU went to the Los Angeles Chargers. Again, a terrible fantasy location for a wide receiver coming into the league. Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are very heavily the wide receiver 1 and 2. I don't know why the Chargers didn't get a tight end here. Gerald Everett's good, but he's
getting up
older
there.
and he only had a half decent season. This is a perfect landing spot for a tight end, in my opinion. But they went with a wide receiver. He's going to be basically Mike Williams' replica.
Yeah,
I mean, he has the same
Yeah,
exact
he is.
physicals and stuff. Yeah,
That's
but
what-
maybe just a little
100%.
faster. But wide receiver 3, I mean, he's on a very good offense. Don't get me wrong. The Chargers have a very good offense. But
Josh
Eckler
Palmer
killed
didn't have fantasy relevancy last year, so
Yeah, but that was due to a lot of the time only having one of the 2 receivers on the field. So you pretty much got to bet on having either Keenan Allen or Mike Williams out, which you easily could.
yeah,
I mean,
Mike
that is
Williams
I
is
mean,
very injured.
they're very injury, and Mike Williams comes and goes. I mean, so I like this spot more than I like Najigba at Seattle.
Man, I've been on Zay Flowers for a while. I love him. He's not the best wide receiver in the class. I think that's in Jigba, but I do think he is the second best wide receiver in the class, bar none. He's 5'9", like 179, I think it is, or 180. The guy's a freak, man. When the ball's in his hands, he's going to make plays. What has Lamar Jackson not had for the last 5 years of his career? A playmaker. So the Ravens this offseason, they fire Greg Roman. Thank the Lord above. They get
he was terrible.
they're going to get Rashad Bateman back who's healthy. They're going to get Odell Beckham, who hopefully can stay healthy and hopefully at least provide something. And then you bring in a guy like Zay Flowers, who was great in college despite not having a good quarterback at all. The guy, it reminds me a lot of Steve Smith. I think all the analysts will say that on TV. I see it. I see Antonio Brown too, with the way he just goes up and gets it. Lamar's going to have a field day with this guy.
Yep.
If you're in any dynasty league, he's a first-round pick for sure. In my opinion, the Ravens are going to use the hell out of him.
All right, and coming in at the 23rd overall pick, we have what might be one of the best landing spots for a wide receiver, and Jordan Addison from USC goes to the Vikings. And anytime you can line up opposite of Justin Jefferson as a wide receiver, you're going to get something because the defense is going to have to focus on Justin Jefferson because, I mean, he's the number 1 wide receiver for a reason. And from what I understand, Jordan Addison is a monster in college, and that should all translate very well over to the NFL.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, this is if you're looking for a 1-2, if you want my personal advice, I'm pretty much locked in on this guy, bearing anything crazy for the offseason rookie trades. But I love this spot. Like Nick said, lining up against Justin Jefferson, I mean, he's going to get so much attention. He's just an absolute monster on that side. So you're going to get some sneaky touchdowns. And Adam Thielen, the ghost of him, basically, I mean, he was not the Adam Thielen that we know and love last year. He was just kind of out there, going through the motions. He still finished with 716 yards and 6 touchdowns. Now, if you line up Jordan Addison, who is much healthier, younger, better, almost a better route runner than Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen's kind of known for that, but not an older one. I mean, I just love this landing spot. Dalvin Cook, we don't know what's going to happen with him. So Kirk might be throwing the ball way more than we anticipate. So Jordan Addison, as of right now, I'm probably looking at him for my 1-2 in your league.
The only thing about this pick that does not scare me, but it just kind of puts me off on him, is he potentially could be the number 3 target in the offense behind Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson.
To the Giants pick at 24, they ended up going with Deontay Banks from Maryland. I don't know a lot about Banks. I know that he is a bigger corner. He's like 6'1", and he's also very, very fast. And
6 foot 197.
I know he's also projected to be the CB1 in New York, which is what they wanted because Adoree Jackson cannot stay healthy. So it's definitely a good pick for them. I don't know about fantasy relevancy, though, because this division is just so tough. I don't really know if I'd want to go for any defenses as a top 5 defense. So
for the 25th overall pick, the Buffalo Bills selected Dalton Kincaid, a tight end out of Utah. I love the landing spot for this tight end, but I think it's going to be a loading process for him. I don't see him starting right away over Dawson Knox, but just having that absolute, like, Josh Allen-based offense, I think that's going to do very well for a good tight end. If they can slip him Dawson Knox, I feel, is going to start for the first couple of games, but I would definitely spend a little, draft cheddar on him to keep him there for a couple of games. About 6-7 games in, they're going to start working him in, and I just see him just exploding. I mean, he's a PPR, he's a receiving tight end. He's not more of the blocking type, which Buffalo uses. Dawson Knox is also more of just like a go out and run routes. He's not really there, like a Darnell Washington would have been. But I mean, I love the pick and I love the placement.
On to the 26th overall pick. The Dallas Cowboys took Maisie Smith out of Michigan, defensive tackle. Not gonna lie, again, don't know too much about him. Again, defensive line help it's always good to have depth on the defensive line and offensive line. Although the Cowboys already do have a relatively stacked interior on the defense, so I'm not a Cowboys fan. I actually don't really like the Cowboys at all. So this pick confuses me, and I don't know if that's my bias showing, but I'll let somebody else speak on this.
Yeah, I would like to speak on this. So I've been getting a lot of hate for my sleeper tight end pick. I think I've had friends, family, and people just on our socials, which follow, by the way. They're linked
Up top.
But I have got so much hate for my Jake Ferguson tight end sleeper because Dallas is drafting a tight end 26. Well, look who's smart, I said they're going to draft a defensive lineman because that's what they need. Their edge rushers, Parsons and Lawrence, are dogs, but their inside could work. I also said offensive line. They're going to pick a lineman 26, not a tight end because they spent decent amount of draft capital on Ferguson, and he's good. So just for everyone who was making fun of me for my sleeper tight end, I'm not looking pretty dumb now, huh? I'm looking pretty, like I know a thing or two.
And then with the 27th pick, the Jaguars selected Anton Harrison out of Oklahoma, offensive tackle. There's not a lot to say about this. I think this pick was basically made because Cam Robinson is facing a suspension. They need a filler for however many games that suspension is. And it's always good to have solid offensive tackles in case somebody gets hurt, especially when you have a franchise QB like Trevor Lawrence.
The Cincinnati Bengals. This is fine. They took Miles Murphy, edge rusher out of Clemson. Murphy had a down year in 2022, 2023. His 2021 tape was ridiculous. The guy's a monster. But this past year, he kind of just looked out of place. There's a new system. The team wasn't generally healthy at all either. So I kind of see where the upside is. He's fast, though, has good size. When he's not playing the rush very well, he's going to do something. He's going to make a play for you. AFC's full of really good quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I mean, you got Burrow, Mahomes, Lamar Jackson now, long-term. You got Josh Allen, Justin Herbert. I mean, there's a plethora of really good quarterbacks in this conference. So for them to make that jump and get to the Super Bowl again and hopefully, win it, they need to get to the quarterback a bit better. They didn't do it very well against Kansas City. They struggled against the Ravens to get to Tyler Huntley, who is garbage. You can't get to Tyler Huntley.
He is a Pro Bowl quarterback.
Put some respect on him.
I can't hate on that necessarily.
Are you a Pro Bowl quarterback, Gavin?
That's your team too.
Yeah, I know you're.
I got to keep it real sometimes. He's not number 8. That's all I'm gonna say. Yeah.
Couldn't be an Eagles fan though.
Yeah.
All right, and with the 29th pick, the Saints took Brian Breesy, defensive tackle out of Clemson. In my opinion, I think this is a really good pick. I love Brian Breesy, and if you talked about him before this year, he was going to be a top 5 pick in the draft. He's a really good run stopper, and he's also good in the pass rush. And he did have a down year this past year, but I think all in all, he's going to bounce back, and he's going to help the Saints defense where they really need it on the interior. Fantasy relevancy, I still don't think that it helps them much to become a fantasy relevant defense, but
all right, and then to move on to Philly, the 30th overall pick is, who would have guessed, a Georgia defensive player, Nolan Smith. Like I said earlier in the show, pretty much if you go to Georgia to start looking at houses in Philly, not much I can say about this. I mean, you might get a couple sacks out of him. He might fall in a fumble, get you some points in fantasy, but, I mean, just a pretty standard pick. I think NFL, switching over to the actual football, I think this is a very good pick. He was projected to be way earlier than this, I believe. So just for us to get him at 30, I like the pick, but just fantasy relevance, not much is going to change for that Philly defense.
Yeah, because when you're looking at defenses for fantasy, you want sacks, turnovers, and touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
And unless you're a game-changing linebacker with game-changing speed, you usually don't get those kind of plays out of them. They're more or less, obviously, the tackle monsters. But switching back to the actual football, as Shannon said earlier, the Eagles' weak spot for years, no matter how good the secondary or the line was, the linebackers always struggled and always as a core. And we never had one good guy. So this will help boost. This will help keep fresh legs in. So as an Eagles fan, I like this pick.
And then we had the pick 31 here. This is Kansas City, and they take a local guy, and Felix Onyeudike-Uzomah. It's not a bad pick. I don't hate it necessarily. It's kind of been one that people have kind of predicted for so long because of the local ties and just he is a good player. Not necessarily like the best pick here. I think he could have gone a number of different directions for Kansas City, like Joey Porter. You kind of need a corner, but you do get a pass rusher. He's going to start for you for a while. Again, it's funny. We talked about it earlier. I think Big 12 pass rushers just don't go in the first round. Tonight, we see 3 of them go in the first round. So it's a bit ironic to talk about that. And then for this year to be the complete opposite of what we're used to. But he played the Big 12 against, Big 12 defenses suck. So take this pick with a grain of salt. But Kansas City has something going on for them. They know what they're doing. I won't doubt the defending Super Bowl champs. So.
All right, that's going to wrap up our round 1 recap of the 2023 NFL Draft. Couple fantasy notes to take away from this. NFL GMs get stuff wrong all the time. So when we talk about players today, we were talking about what we liked about them and where they could end up at their top scale. Of course, everybody in the first round has the chance to be a bust. We don't want anybody to bust, but that's just the realistic part of it. So do your own research, listen to other people, listen to us. Take in your own information and go from there. Don't just go off of what one person says. And like I said, the NFL gets it wrong. Nobody in here knows it better than 2 Eagles fans who sat through a J.J. Arcega-Whiteside drafting and a Jalen Reagor in front of DK Metcalf and Justin Jefferson, and a Jets fan who sat and watched Zach Wilson get drafted 2nd overall. So
I don't want to toot my own horn, but I kind of killed the first round with my sleeper picks. I pretty much predicted the whole first round. So if you want to listen to anyone, I mean, I kind of nailed it. So
I'd listen to them. Listen to the guy who runs it all, Shan Holtz. So thanks for stopping in and watching the 3rd episode of the Fantasy Bums. This is our round 1 draft recap. Follow all of our socials. There should be 4 boxes above my head. Thanks for watching. Hopefully we see you again.